Hello everybody, I welcome you all in this new edition of news coverage and analysis from the Hindu newspaper dated 3rd April 2019. So these are the topic that I'm going to cover today. This particular video might get little longer than what I had promised, that I'll try to keep it at 30 minutes. But since I've got a couple of interesting topics, so it might get stretched a bit. So let's start with the first article, that is enzyme to curb bacteria cell growth discovered. This is mainly important for your prelims. The only part that is in blue is important for your prelims examination. Scientists at the Center of Cellular and Molecular Biology (CCMB) have discovered an enzyme which helps in breaking cell walls of bacteria and hence offers potential for a new drug delivery route to arrest the antibacterial resistance in existing antibiotic drug. Now this part is important. Now it has got a way to break the wall of the cell, and that's how they can get into the bacteria and can break its antibacterial resistance. Now the important point for your prelims is the Center of Cellular and Molecular Biology (CCMB) is an Indian biotechnology research establishment located in Hyderabad that operates under the aegis of Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. Now this part also is important. CCMB is a designated center of excellence by the Global Molecular and Cell Biology Network UNESCO. This part is also important. The Republic of India's National Biosafety Level 4 Containment Facility of Human Infectious Disease is also located on the campus of CCMB. So this part you should remember for your prelims. Now let's get back to the article. The discovery is crucial to know how cells grow in bacteria and to understand the antibacterial resistance to currently available antibiotics. Now scientists all over the world are trying to understand this phenomena, and the lab of Dr. Reddy has been working on how E. coli bacteria, this is important, cell functions, divides and grow to understand the disease like cholera, leprosy, tuberculosis for the past decade. So these bacteria, E. coli is important, and it is related to cholera, leprosy and tuberculosis. Also urinary tract infection is also happens because of E. coli bacteria. Now what it says, Dr. Reddy and her research scholar C.H. Pawan Kumar had been working on how cell govern the synthetic machinery to build the cell wall in the first place, identify the principal players behind the process and discovered the new mechanism or enzyme through which the cell regulates the growth of its wall. Now this is the new thing that they have discovered. Now other bacteria too have the same enzyme working on the cell division, as a cell wall is fundamental for bacterial growth and division. Now therefore by blocking this seizures enzyme from manufacturing, new way to target microbes could be found, leading to a new way of antibiotic drug. Now in contrast, the old methodology is that antibiotic drugs target the last stage of cell synthesis to prevent the cell growth like penicillin does, that hits the machinery that creates the cell wall. So the old system, like old approach, like the way penicillin works, is like it prevents the creation of cell wall. Now this particular system regulates the growth of the wall. Now that is the difference. So this one probably is going to be more revolutionizing thing in preventing the spread of bacteria. Now at page 5 there is a news, Modi's ATM remark is in a bad taste. Now, this is basically related to Polavaram project. I thought why not revise Polavaram project. Polavaram project is an under construction multi-purpose irrigation project on Godavari river in the West Godavari district and East Godavari district of Andhra Pradesh. The project has been accorded national project status by the Union Government of India and will be the last to be accorded this status. The reservoir is spread into the parts of Chhattisgarh, Orissa states also. and this is the reservoir. So you can very well understand that it is going into all the three states. Now, what are the objectives of the project? To interlink Godavari and Krishna in Vijayawada just before they merge into sea. So see, this is the linking part. So from Godavari at Polavaram at Vijayawada, it links the Krishna river. To store water at Polavaram Dam in West Godavari district, to irrigate 2.91 lakh hectare of agriculture land, and that is given in green part. Yep. To generate 950 plus megawatt hydroelectricity to supply 23.44 TMC water to Visakhapatnam and Vizag steel plant, diversion to 80 TMC water to river Krishna through this canal. The timeline is given here. I am not going to talk in detail about this project because I have already covered this particular article on 8th of January. So you can watch my video there. The financing is given by NABARD has provided long-term irrigation fund under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. Then in 2018 budget, Andhra Pradesh allocated 9,000 crore. Central government approved 1,400 crore, which had been sanctioned in January but not released through extra budgetary resources raised by NABARD, and these funds were outside LTIF. So these are the details that is given. You can watch my video of 8th January. Now there are certain oppositions and there are salient features also. You can pause the video and note down if you wish. So let's proceed to the next article. This is CSC for states not possible under finance panel rules, says Jetli. So what is this CSC? A special, sorry, not CSC, SCS. My apologies. So what is this SCS or special category status? For special category status, the center pays 90% of the fund required in a centrally sponsored scheme as against the 60% in the case of normal category states, while the remaining funds are provided by the state government. So states have to pay only 10%. While the constitution does not have any provision for categorization of any state as special category state, but considering the fact that some area in India are historically disadvantaged as compared to others, the center has assisted state with fund in the past allocated by former planning commission body called National Development Council. So this terminology was coined by planning commission through its body NDC. Now what does the 14th Finance Commission say about the special category status? In the past, NDC considered factors such as difficulty and hilly terrain, low population density or sizable share of tribal population, strategic location along borders, economic and infrastructural backwardness, and non-viable nature of state finances. The Niti Aayog, which has replaced the Planning Commission, has no power to allocate fund. This you must be knowing, and that's why they have got a debate that is going on that why not make Finance Commission a permanent body. Now that all the allocation power rests with Finance Commission, so it should be given much structured construction and powers. So let's get back to the article. So therefore, the discretion that ruling party at the center has to dole out special favors to states through the plan panel no longer exists. Earlier, central government used to give all such benefits through planning commission. Now that planning commission is not there, there is no such provision. The center says that the 14th Finance Commission effectively removed the concept of special category status after its recommendations were accepted in 2015. The center, Arun Jetli has said, was willing to provide monetary equivalent of the special category state to Andhra Pradesh, but would not be able to grant special status. So money would be given, but you would not be given any special status. So I would be giving you money, but that does not mean that you can take it as a matter of claim, so that you can say that okay, I'm starting this project, so you are supposed to give me 90%. That you cannot say. I'll give you say 5,000 crore, but that kind of status would not be given to you. Now that was restricted only to the northeastern and 3 hilly states by 14th Finance Commission. Now this kind of status now rests only with northeastern and 3 hilly states as per Finance Commission, 14th Finance Commission. Now what assistance do states with special category status get? The center pays, as I have told you earlier, center pays 90% and rest has to be given by the state government, while for normal states it is 60%. Now which are the other states that are demanding special category status? Now apart from Andhra Pradesh, we have got Odisha, Bihar that has demanded a special category status. However, they have not been granted the status as they did not fulfill the criteria to be called as a special category states. Now when was the first special category status bestowed? NDC first accorded special category status in 1969 to Jammu and Kashmir, Assam and Nagaland. Over the years, 8 more states were added to the list, and these are Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Sikkim, Tripura, and finally in 2010, Uttarakhand. Until 2014-15, special category status meant these 11 states receive a variety of benefits and SOPs. Now we come to the page 7, and here in continuation to the article that we had seen yesterday regarding EMISAT, we have got couple of more news, and complete article is important for you. The article says between now and early 2020, the space above India looks set to see an unprecedented rush of satellite meant solely or mainly for country's military. So India is going to launch quite a number of satellites specially for military purpose. Now starting May, the ISRO plans to send up at least 8 Earth observation satellite of variety hues and at the rate of almost 1 a month. The communication satellite GSAT 32 is also in the offing next year to replace GSAT 6A, which was lost in failed launch and was meant to mainly serve the ground forces. Until now, such defense use satellites were spaced out over a few years or were put up only once a year, as in the case of Cartosat 2 series high resolution imaging satellite. Looking at the last 3 launches, we could even say the train has already started. HISIS launched in November, Microsat R in January, and EMISAT sent into orbit on April 1 are all for what is called a strategic use. This you should remember. By the way, this is knockdown, Microsat R. Now, DRDO's payload, while traditionally payloads of ISRO satellite came from Space Application Center, the payload of Microsat R and EMISAT were from DRDO, said the officials, who spoke on condition of anonymity. Soon after EMISAT launch, ISRO chairman and secretary Department of Space KC1 announced that the next mission would be the radar imaging satellite RESAT-2B, followed by a high resolution mapping satellite Cartosat 3. Both are understood to be useful militarily and seen as overdue assets. Now this you should remember, and then you should be able to frame your answer if questions are asked in the mains as what are the this strategic decision that India has taken to boost up its defense systems and electronic surveillance system as well as missile defense system. So these satellites are going to be of great help in integrating all these systems of defense program, electronic defense and surveillance program. Now we have got the chart here. RESAT 2B May 19, Cartosat 3 June 19, RESAT 2BR1 July 19, then GISAT 1, that is a new series, September 19, then RESAT 2BR2 October 19, then GISAT 2, RESAT 1A and GSAT 32. So we have got so many satellites that are going to get launched. So I again would say that you should make a list of all these satellites and their importance and their application. That actually would help you in tackling all the science tech problems in case asked related to space program. Now there is another article, Pakistan airspace closure hits Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Russia airlines. The detail is given here. I have already tackled this particular topic. I have told you that now that Pakistan has blocked its airspace, it is hurting India, Indian Airlines, I have told you. And actually it is making a news world over that. And what is the basic purpose? Basic purpose is not to harass these countries or India. The basic purpose is to raise the issue that India is so hostile towards Pakistan that Pakistan is now forced to close down its airspace, because either India can shoot down some missile or can shoot the aeroplane, and because of that it is highly dangerous to allow flight in that route through either originating from India and ally country or other vulnerable countries. So that actually a way to highlight the issue after this Balakot strike. Then this particular point is important. Now that we have talked about Mission Shakti and I have detailed as what is the actual importance of Mission Shakti and why India went for killing a satellite in the orbit, that too at the height of 300 kilometers. What is the importance of shooting down at 300 kilometers height, how it is going to help you in missile defense program. Now the important scientific aspect that we need to understand is the space debris. Till now I had been not discussing this particular part. I wanted to discuss it little later because the main objective should first get discussed and then we can go to the other. This also is important aspect, no doubt, but then the very purpose of launch of ASAT was totally different. But then from a scientific point of view, from somebody who has got interest in space and space research, should also worry about space debris, and that's why I decided not to take this particular topic at that point of time. But now it is apt, now that situation is little cool down, so we can talk about it. This is important that whenever you try to blast off any of the satellite in the space, it creates a debris and it actually is quite dangerous for all your satellites, including International Space Station. Why it happens, I'll explain you in the end. So let's first talk about the article. It says the NASA on Monday criticized India for the test, describing it as terrible thing that had endangered the International Space Station and led to the creation of nearly 400 pieces of orbital debris. NASA administrator Jim Bridenstine had said some of the debris posed a risk to astronauts on board the ISS. Now, Mr. Bridenstine said that 400 pieces, only 60 were being tracked and 24 of them were going above the apogee of the ISS. Now, what is this apogee? Apogee is the farthest point from the Earth of the ISS orbit. You know that these satellites or the International Space Station actually rotate or rotate around or has got orbit around Earth in elliptical form. So this particular point, which is the farthest point here, is called the apogee, and this point is called the perigee. So this is saying that 24 of them were going above the apogee of ISS. So there is a likelihood of this debris hitting the International Space Station. The latter poses the maximum risk of space station, he said. Now, according to the European Space Agency, there are about 34,000 debris object which is greater than 10 centimeter, 9 lakh object from 1 to 10 centimeter, and 128 million object from 1 mm to 1 centimeter orbiting the Earth. Now, orbital debris are tracked by a variety of ground-based radar and space station. The speed at which these objects between 1 mm to 10 centimeter across hurtle through the space travel makes them extremely dangerous, various studies have shown. And now, why their speed is so dangerous? Let's try to understand. We have got a satellite here and that is going at a speed. Now we have sent a rocket and we try to disintegrate it. Let's try to understand, because of explosion the debris would go in multiple direction. Those who are going in a downward direction would come into the atmosphere and will get disintegrated. Those who move into different other direction would actually remain in the space and would form a different orbit. Now, since here there is a less of friction, in fact friction is quite low or in fact negligible, these particles would actually get momentum from that rocket which is hit and disintegrated it. So they actually would be running at a very high speed. Now, if they hit any satellite or the International Space Station, they would hit, and if their size is between 1 mm to 10 centimeter, then actually they would hit like a bullet. So they can pierce into the system. Now that you know that at that height there is no atmosphere, so any bullet hitting the satellite or the International Space Station actually would rupture and can kill the astronaut or the system that is available in the ISS. So that is the problem or the threat of destroying your satellite at that height. Now, the NASA further says that the ISS is among the most fortified space object. It has debris shield deployed around the crewed module, each composed of two metal sheets separated by above 10 centimeter. The outer bumper shield exploits the impact energy to shatter the debris so that the inner wall can withstand the spray of smaller fragments. So what it says that by envisaging this kind of thing, ISS has already got the shield from this kind of debris. So in case questions are asked related to space debris and criticism of India's launch of ASAT and the pose that is the threat that it is going to pose or it has posed towards the satellite and International Space Station, you can quote that International Space Station might not get hit, or if at all it get hit, it will be safe, but then it actually is going to cause a great concern or great danger towards the satellite. However, even International Space Station has got threat. Now, which part? Say if the astronauts venture out of the space station for the repair, then they can get hit by these stray debris. Furthermore, their solar panel can also get damaged because of this space debris. Now we move to the next article, how to achieve 24/7 power for all. Now this is editorial. It says, I'm actually not getting into the analysis. I'm just trying to put bullet points here so that it remains in your mind. We can start the discussion point only after your prelims are over. It says the 3 steps to help rural India overcome electricity poverty and reap immense socio-economic benefits. What it says, the household electrification scheme, प्रधान मंत्री सहज बिजली हर घर योजना और सौभाग्य योजना has been implemented at an unprecedented pace. More than 45,000 households were electrified every day over the last 18 months. Now, against such an achievement, it is important to ask a couple of questions. And what are those? What did it take for India to achieve this target? Why is electricity access not only about provision of connection, and how can we ensure 24/7 supply to all? So what it is saying that just providing electricity for the sake of saying that we have achieved a target is not going to be enough. The aim should be that we should be able to provide uninterrupted and regular 24/7 electricity supply, then only we would be able to achieve the target or the vision that we had set. So it further says that battle against electricity poverty is far from won. Why? The erection of electricity poles and an extension of wires do not necessarily mean that uninterrupted power supply to the household would be given. Now there is a gap between connection and reliable power supply. A quarter of the rural household still report low voltage issue for at least 5 days in a month. Now this low voltage issue and then fluctuation actually can damage their equipment, and then they can get reluctant about using the electricity, and that way India would not be able to achieve the target that is set. Further says, in order to achieve 24/7 power for all, we need to focus on three frontiers. And what are those? First, India needs real-time monitoring of supply at the end user level. So, at what time electricity is coming, what are the frequencies? Say, if it is coming and going every half an hour, you can very well say that at 50% time you have given electricity. But then, if you look at the frequency, it becomes actually useless, because half an hour electricity is there and it is gone for half an hour, and then it comes again, remains there for 1 hour, and then goes blank for 1 hour. So it has to be uninterrupted. Even if it is supplied for 8 hours, it should be continuous. And then you got to understand at which time electricity is supplied. The second point is that DISCOMs need to focus on improving the quality of the supply as well as the maintenance service. Quality of the supply means, if your electricity supply is at 180 volt and then it suddenly surges to 300 volt, then it comes down to 110 volt. If the voltage supply or the current supply is irregular, people would not be using it, because then it becomes actually quite costly for them, and then it would damage the equipment also at the household. So the DISCOMs need to monitor the regularity of the supply and how it is supplied to the household. Then third point that we need to understand, the improvement in the supply should be complemented with a significant improvement in the customer service, which includes billing, metering and collection. Around 27% of the electrified rural household in the 6th state were not paying anything for their electricity. It's not that they are not paying. What actually DISCOM people come, they come once in a year, they note down the meter, and then they go back and then they give a bill for a whole year, and then they will cut the supply if the bill is not paid. So that is the irregularity. So that's why there is a need of improvement in customer service. This is quite, this article is quite quite a one focus towards the mains. So you just need to note on the point. You should not be that serious about this at this point of time. Then we have got the second article, that is the many and the different faces of terror. This article I have taken to actually highlight as how the radical group or radical thinking spreads and how it never dies out. I did not skip this article because probably this kind of article would not come later on. This is written by former NSA MK Narayan. So then because of that also it is quite an important one. So let's try to see what he's saying. He says that it is premature to read that IS or Islamic State defeat as the start of more peaceful phase. So in fact, I would say that disintegration and suppression of IS has become quite dangerous and has made the world a dangerous place to live. Let's see what he says. Radical Islamist extremism has been the dominant terror narrative post 1980s. This was possibly an offshoot of the decade-long Afghan war between 1979 and 1989, which let loose an avalanche of mercenaries who had honed their skill during Afghan jihad and employed violence indiscriminately. So actually, the way he sees that, it has started from Afghan war, and now these people are spreading their ideology at different places in the world. What he says, more recently, especially in the West, a new narrative has been in unfolding, and that is sporting different labels. Extreme right-wing elements are proving to be no less violent and dangerous than jihadi terrorists. They appear at present less organized than many outfits, and violence they perpetrate seems more random. And something which is more random is going to be more dangerous and would bring more catastrophe, that we need to understand. And the best example is the shooting at New Zealand. Now, terrorists are further honing their skill and are able to strike a target at will. Cross-pollination of concepts and ideas among terror groups, and in many cases even pooling of resources, has made this possible. And you can very well understand there is a link between Al-Qaeda, Taliban and ISIS. They all are, they are pooling the resources to make themselves, fortified and invincible. So what further he says that a decade of violence in Iraq and Syria has produced a reservoir of battle-hardened fighters who are bolstering the capability of desperate terror groups in different part of the world. So these people now, what he's trying to say that now IS is suppressed in Syria, but what about the people? They probably have dispersed and they are battle hardened fighters, and they are very much in doctrine, so their faith is quite hardened. So these people are now dispersed and desperate as well, and they are now in a different part of the world, so they actually pose a danger. He further says it would hence be premature to celebrate the decline of terrorism based on the so-called demise of IS. The territory controlled by IS Caliphate may have shrunk dramatically compared to 2014, but its obituary cannot be written just yet. The IS remains the fount of support and inspiration for several hundred fighters across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Many IS networks are still operating clandestinely. Now, the caliphate is an idea which is still relevant. The internet remain now here. He's talking about what could be the future of this kind of radicalized movements or terror groups. Says that internet remains its main vehicle for radicalizing Muslim youth. You form a video and then you talk about, give a fiery speech, form a video, put it over internet and let people watch it. And then it is quite easy for, easy to radicalize youth than, trying to radicalize those who are, in a mature group. And then that's why internet is the main tool right now. Now, what is most likely is that the IS will make a shift to guerrilla warfare tactics. Now, these groups would spread and they would start operating in a shell, in a group. Now, it is likely to strengthen its enemy to carry out reconnaissance before launching attack. The lone wolf syndrome will pursue with renewed vigor. Now, what is this lone wolf syndrome? That means one person would come out, it would blast either itself or it would shoot indiscriminately, and in that process he or she might get killed also. So that is lone wolf syndrome. Now, development in technology, information and doctrine will in all likelihood alter the chapter of 21st century terrorism. In the Pulwama attack, the suicide bomber is reported to have used virtual SIM to contact his JEM handlers in Pakistan. Now, it is difficult at this point to determine which of the disruptive technologies will turn out to be the most dangerous one. So that's why he's saying that counterterrorism expert will need to lay stress on multi-domain operations and information technology and undertake terror gaming to wrestle with an uncertain future that is already upon us. So we should not celebrate, rather we should think as how to contain the spread of this kind of ideology. There is absolutely no benefit in suppressing the arm. We should think about suppressing the idea, the very ideology. From where is it originating, and what is the reason behind recurrent origination of such kind of radical ideology? And we have got next article, the principle and procedure in Lokpal. This is related to, this basically is criticism of the procedure that was followed in appointment of Lokpal, and as actually is criticizing that which kind of Lokpal would it be if it if he was appointed by the very hazy process. But still, let's try to understand. Couple of facts are here and some rules are also mentioned here. It would be of some help. The past is that from 1963, India has been nurturing the ambition to appoint a Lokpal, a phrase coined by L.M. Singhvi, coined from Sweden's ombudsman, and its adaptation of UK in 1967. The idea was expose maladministration, which British MP Richard Crossman defined as bias, neglect, inattention, delay, incompetence, inaptitude, arbitrariness, and so on. Now, despite affirmation to its need, no one really wanted a Lokpal in India, preferring instead of a mild vigilance commission from 1964 to 2003. I would not call this a mild commission. Vigilance commission indeed is quite strong, but the problem is that we have got such a huge network of government machinery that it looks like it is ineffective. But actually, if you remove this kind of system, probably then you would see the dirty face of bureaucratic or the government system. But anyway, in one sense, the National Human Rights Commission and the various national commissions dealing with scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, women, children, and even Safai Karmcharis are all special Lokpal within their area. But nobody fears them because they are promotional and deal with individual grievances. Well, first half I disagree this part, that this is just promotional and deal with, but then yeah, they deal with individual grievances, so that's why they appear to be less effective. However, they indeed are effective. After working for so many years in the system, I know it very well. Now let's talk about the issue of transparency that author is actually cribbing about. He says that section 4(3) of Lokpal and Lokayukt Act 2013 states that the selection committee may also consider any person other than the person recommended by the search committee. Now this makes the procedure futile. So that means that actually the search committee becomes quite ineffective. If search committee does not bring the name of the suitable person or the person who is suitable for the system, then the selection committee, which consists of PM and Chief Justice of Supreme Court and then eminent jurist and the leader of opposition, may decide to go for somebody who is more suited for their need. Now, however, any new system that comes in India initially gets criticized, and then over the period of time, actually it evolves and shape up. That has been my experience. Now, so author says that this makes the procedure futile. The search committee rule 2014 stated that the selection committee would select one of the 5 names recommended for the post of chairperson of the Lokpal and the 8 of 24 names recommended for the post of member of the Lokpal. The selection committee was to lay down a criteria for appointment and decide by majority in cases of difference of opinion. This Lokpal will always be known as secretly appointed one. It is supposed to be an anti-corruption institution. Much will depend on how it is used and against whom. Will we find out who is the chore and who is the chowkidar, or will this be another playground for politics? Now here I would like to caution. I would still rather prefer to be optimistic, because I have personally seen that when Chief Information Commissioner or Office of Chief Information Commission was formed, the similar kind of cynicism was there in the air, and everybody said that nothing would come out, nothing would happen. But then now we are witnessing that things have changed, got revolutionized. and we actually have got access to information. I still remember at that point of time there was a rule that file noting would not be given. Now file notings are given. At that point of time there was a rule for classified information. Now such things have gone. You almost get information related to everything. So it takes some time to, you know, for the evolution of the system. Similar was the case with election commission. At one point of time nobody was aware about chief election commissioner. Now everybody knows about it. So it takes some time before system gets evolved, and that's called the evolutionary process in democracy, and we should remain be hopeful. The best part is that the ball has been set rolling, and we should hope for the best to come. You may say that, you know, the process is faulty, but then you got to believe in individual who would hold the post and should trust on his integrity, and maybe tomorrow things or the rules might get changed or get evolved when the situation comes that way. So let's hope for the best. Then we have got a poll call. This is VVPAT. What is VVPAT? A voter verifiable paper audit trail. Sorry. VVPAT allows citizens to verify whether their votes have been recorded correctly or not. This is done by a machine called the VVPAT machine that is connected to electronic voting machine or EVM. A VVPAT machine consists of a printer unit and a status display unit. Soon after a voter casts her vote, the printer unit prints a slip of paper that verifies the voter's choice. The slip contains the party symbol and the name of the candidate for whom she has casted her vote. The slip, which is visible through the glass box, is displayed on the voter for about 7 seconds, after which it is dropped into the compartment that collects the ballot slip. Now, any error during the voting is displayed on the status display unit. A few VVPAT are tallying to account for the accuracy of the EVM. Now, given glitches in VVPAT machines in recent assembly elections, opposition parties have called for a higher VVPAT recount. So this might be asked in your prelims as well as mains. Important, you should remember it. Then we have got a news. FATF may blacklist Pakistan due to lobbying by India. Why lobbying by India and FATF can blacklist Pakistan? We would understand little later. So what's the news first? Pakistan could be blacklisted by the Financial Action Task Force due to lobbying by India, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said, and he estimated that the country could suffer a loss of around $10 billion annually if it remains in the watchdog's grey list. Now, in June last year, the Paris-based FATF had placed Pakistan on the grey list of countries whose domestic laws are considered weak to tackle challenges of money laundering and terror financing. The Foreign Office is calculating the annual loss if Pakistan is pushed to the blacklist by FATF, as India is lobbying for this. Mr. Qureshi told reporters here on Monday. Now, what is this FATF? FATF is an intergovernmental organization founded in 1989 on the initiative of G7 to develop policies to combat money laundering. Now, in G7 we have got France, we have got UK also, and these are the two countries we, along with America, are lobbying hard for India in United Nations Security Council. And that's why Pakistan is scared now that its head office is also in France, and France is actively participating in FATF, and that's why Pakistan is scared that it might be pushed into blacklist in case China vetoes in case of Jaish Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. So that's basically their fear, that if China helps Pakistan on that account, then France and Britain can help India by pushing Pakistan into blacklist. That's why Mr. Shah Qureshi is saying this openly. Now, in 2001, its mandate expanded to include terror financing also. It monitors progress in implementation of FATF recommendation through peer review of member countries. The FATF secretariat is housed at OECD headquarters in Paris. This part you should remember for your prelims. So the next article is related to stress asset. Supreme Court's verdict could delay resolution of stress asset. What it says, the prospect of recovering 3.8 lakh crore of stressed loan of over 70 large borrowers has become uncertain after Supreme Court quashed the controversial February 12, 2018 circular of Reserve Bank of India on resolution of stress asset. So what are the provisions that were there in this February 12 circular? It said that lenders will have to classify a loan account as stressed and start a resolution process within 1 day of default. So today you have defaulted, next day the process of resolution should start. Now if bank starts resolution of an asset, they will have to set aside higher capital known as the provision in banking parlance. So definitely you're declaring it as stress asset. So that much amount as a provision, a part of it has of money that is available with you, or the cash that is available with you has to be set aside to make your functioning what you call safe. So that way you would be, or the banks would have less capital available at hand for their day-to-day working. Furthermore, banks were also asked to refer all loan account of over 2000 crore rupee for bankruptcy proceeding if resolution is not achieved within 180 days. Now also all the existing loan, so first thing what would happen, your capital would get blocked, and then you have said that this company or the company which has taken your loan is going to get bankrupt. So actually you are sending a bad message in the market, and these companies would not be able to either raise money or would be able to get operational credit from operational creditors. So that way actually the moment you start proceeding, those companies would get into negative spiral. So also all the existing loan restructuring facilities like corporate debt restructuring were withdrawn, and insolvency and bankruptcy code became the only option for resolution of stress asset. So this is one way. Earlier what was the option, that moment you go on default, then banks actually call the owner, all the stakeholders, and then there were multiple options that used to get after assessment, those instruments or the tools were extended to the company to bring them out of the debt structure, or to help them remain afloat so that they could pay back the loan to the bank. Now those facilities like corporate debt restructuring are gone. So the moment you have defaulted, the proceeding would start, and within 180 days if the bank is not able to recover the money, then they will have to go to insolvency and bankruptcy code. Now total estimated debt impact due to the circular was 3.8 lakh crore across 70 large borrowers, and 92% of this debt was classified as non-performing asset by the bank. So that's why banking people are saying that this actually is going to hurt, because out of 3.8 lakh crore, 92%, that is around 3.4 3.5 lakh crore, which actually had already become NPAs, would actually get delayed for recovery. So that way actually it's a hit on RBI and the banks. Now this infographic details everything. What did the February 12 circular says? The banks to classify large loans as stressed within a day of default, then banks to frame a resolution plan within 180 days as what exactly are they going to do, and if they could not, then they will have to go for insolvency proceedings. Now why was the circular brought in? There were existing schemes such as corporate debt restructuring, then sustainable structuring of stress asset, then strategic debt restructuring, and the joint lender forum. These provisions were actually removed by RBI, and the only thing that was left was this particular part. So those companies actually were asking that these actually were helpful But the problem is that the way RBI had seen that because of the misuse of these kind of plan or the safeguard that was provided, the companies actually were using or misusing this to actually default the very company, and that's why the system has got 3.8 lakh crore of bad loans, out of which 92% have actually become NPA. Now let's try to understand what are these terms. First is sustainable structuring of stress asset. It is called S4A scheme for addressing the large stress asset of the corporate sector, aims at deep financial restructuring of big dated projects by allowing the lender, that is bank, to acquire equity in the stressed project. Now in this context, the scheme makes financial restructuring of the large project, at the same time helping the lender's ability to deal with such stress asset. Now it is intended to restore the flow of credit to critical sector, including the infrastructure. So that's how it is done. Now the second part is strategic debt restructuring. Now what is done in this? The banks who have given loan to corporate borrower get the right to convert the full or the part of their loan into equity share. So now the bank becomes the partner in the company. But then there's one more part that is there, is that they will become the part of the company. Here you need to differentiate between the two. Here also you are taking equity in the stress project. Here you are taking the equity in the stress project. So what is the difference? Now strategic debt restructuring, in this situation either the individual bank or they form a group called joint lenders forum. So say there are four banks who had given loan to a company. Now that company has not been able to repay their loans. So what they would do, they would form a group and they would take the equity in the company. But the important difference between the first and the second is that here the ownership would change or the management would change. So that is the difference between the first and the second. Here also you take the equity in sustainable structuring of stress asset. So say if a company has taken 50,000 crores of loan, now it is saying that it can only pay back 25,000 crores. So what would happen with the remaining 25,000 crores? So banks or the joint group of banks, which is called as a joint lenders forum, would take the equity in that company. But then here they would not change the ownership. But here they actually would change the ownership or the management of the company, and these groups representative would become the part of the management, so that the company is run according to their planning, their financial planning. This is the difference between sustainable structuring of stress asset and strategic debt restructuring. Now the third part is corporate debt restructuring. Now what is this? It is a reorganization of the distressed company's outstanding obligation to restore its liquidity and keep it in the business. Now it is often achieved by way of negotiation between the distressed company and their creditors, such as the bank and other financial institution, by reducing the total amount of the debt of the company or by decreasing the interest rate it pays while increasing the period of time it has to pay the obligation back. So say if the loan is taken 50,000 crore, so the first option is you are that okay, you pay immediately 40,000 crore and we are going to give you clean sheet, or would say that okay, current interest rate is say 5%, now we reduce it to 4%, or what the banks can say that initial period of payment was 20 years, we increase it to 30 years, or the fourth option can be combination of any of these options. So either increasing from 20 to 30 years and then also reducing the interest rate by from 5 to 4%, and also reducing the total amount from 50,000 crores to 40,000 crores. I mean, like saying that okay, give me 20,000 crores right away and remaining you can pay in due course of time. So this is corporate debt restructuring. So this basically is a salvation plan. Then we have got another news that is there in the box, that breather for a sector choking with the stress asset. Now because of this February 12 circular, the one sector which actually got a severe blow was power sector in India. Why? I would explain you in then. The Supreme Court's order, let's first read the news. The Supreme Court's order on Tuesday quashing the February 12 circular of RBI has come as a huge breather to a power sector which is staring at 66,000 megawatt project of stressed power asset worth 1.8 lakh crore. Over 40,000 crore of payment is due from the government owned discoms. Now if we get the money, issues of 13 gigawatt power unit will be resolved immediately. Now another 25 to 30 gigawatt issue can be resolved through discussion between the power producers and the lenders. Now here you need to understand something. Now the provision of article February 12 circular says that the moment you day one you default, the proceeding has to start, and then these group or the power companies would not get any support from the operational creditors, and then they get into a spiral of debt and all, and now they have become NPA. Now why actually was this happening? First is that this is power company. Now they are selling their electricity to discom. Now this discom is selling to the government units, say railway. Now just try to understand, rail would pay on last day of working to discoms, then discom would process and then would pay. So definitely there has to be a delay. So directly there is no sale from discom to power company to the end user, or you can say from here to the households. So because of that, because of this circular, you actually lose on any leverage. So there is no leverage available with power producers, and that's why they become stressed asset. Now if this circular is revoked, then these companies would actually get breather, and because of that at least 13 gigawatt power unit would immediately get the money, because their money in the tune of 40,000 crore out of total 1.18 lakh crore is stuck with the government organization. Government has to pay, and then they immediately would be able to pay to the banks. So that way they actually would get benefited out of this. So that's why it's saying that it would actually would help at least one sector, that is power sector. So this is all for today. Thank you very much. I had earlier said that this is going to be really long, but then it was important also. So have a nice day.